Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, inshallah, we are continuing lesson 1 in our Articulations and Characteristics program. We start Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa bis-salah ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Today, we are in part 2, lesson number 1. And let's have a look. What are we going to study in this part? The question is, what do we need to learn to enable us to read the Quran in a proper manner? There are 3 points that we are supposed to learn so that we are able to read the Quran in a proper way. First thing is knowing the articulation areas and points of each letter. What do we mean by articulation? Articulation is the place in the mouth and the parts in the mouth that are used to pronounce the Arabic letter in a proper way. For example, let's have an example. Here we have this ayah. Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. So this is a ayn, ya'lamu, meaning to know. Allah knows and you don't. But if we read it as a hamza instead of reading it as a ayn, then the meaning is going to totally change. It's going to be ya'lamu, ta'lamun. And ya'lamu means in pain. Okay? So it changed the meaning totally. What happened here is that the hamza is pronounced from a certain exit in the throat, while the ayn is pronounced also from the throat, but from another part, a different part than the hamza. So we need to know and study how do we pronounce the letter correctly so that we do not do this mistake, and accordingly the meaning is going to be altered and changed. Another example here. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Laylatil qadr. Here it's a qaf, al-qa. But some people, some readers, according to their own mother tongue language, they automatically pronounce the letter qaf as a ghain or as a jim or a gim, like in the Egyptian pronunciation. So instead of saying al-qadr, it is pronounced al-ghadr, and this is a very, very altered meaning. It's not at all proper. Okay? So we need to also know, where does the ghain is pronounced, where is the ghain pronounced, and where is the qaf pronounced from, and the jim also. Okay? So this is the first thing we are talking about, is that we need to know exactly where the letter is pronounced from, so that we don't mix the sounds together and causing the meaning to change. This was the first thing that we really need to learn. The second thing that we really need to also learn is we need to know the characteristics of the letters. And someone is going to say, isn't it the same thing? Isn't it the same thing as knowing how to pronounce the letter? Yes. It is divided into 2 parts. How to pronounce the letter consists of what are the parts in the mouth that I am supposed to use to pronounce this letter, and how am I going to pronounce the letter? How is this letter going to appear is going to be heard because the letter also has characteristics. We as human beings have different characters, and so does the letters. They have different characters. We can be, twin brothers or twin sisters. We look exactly identical, but we have different characters. And this is what differentiates us from each other, right? Even people are differentiated by their characters. So let us have an example from the Quran. We have here a seen letter. فَعَسَى, okay? فَعَسَى اللَّهُ عَسَى. Sometimes a reader, a student, would mix the seen pronunciation by a sad pronunciation, and it's going to be pronounced فَعَصَى, فَعَصَى, okay? It has two meanings, and the two meanings are not the same as asa. Asa means a stick, or asa means that did not listen to the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So here, what happened? What happened is that there is a character regarding the sad that is not in the letter seen. And what is this character? It is elevated. The sad is elevated. So the difference between the seen and the sad is one character, which is elevation. Meaning, when I pronounce a seen, I say sa. But pronouncing this letter, I say saw. The sound is elevated in the mouth, changing the letter totally from a seen to a sad, and changing the meaning also. We have another example here. The word mahdura, mahdura. This val is sometimes changed and read mahdura. What did we do here? We elevated the letter val, which is another character that we can find it in the letter dha, but not in the letter dal. Thus also changing the meaning. So we need to study how to pronounce the letters, whether it is what are the parts of the mouth that are used to pronounce the letter properly, and also how is this letter going to sound? Is it elevated? Is it lowered? Does it have a whistle? And so on. Now, the third thing we really need to know is the different relations between the letters. And this is something new and amazing. People have relations together, right? We have relations with our parents, with our children, with our family members, with our friends, neighbors, colleagues at work. We have relations all over. And so does the letters. Yes, the letters do have relations between themselves. So we need to study these relations. What are an examples of these relations? For example, the noon. What kind of relation does it have with the letter kha if it comes besides it in the word? Is it the same relation with the kha like the ya if the ya came after the noon? What about the ta and the ta? What kind of relation do they have? And yes, they do have relations together. If the ta came before the ta, or the ta came before the ta, there is a certain kind of relation between them. So when we study the articulations and characteristics and tajweed in general, we will realize that there are relations between the letters. And these relations are idhar, meaning to show, or idgham, to merge, or ikhfa, we're going to hide the letter. Yes, we are going to hide the letter. Iqlab, turning it upside down. Tarqiq, lowering the letter or elevating the letter. Tafkhim. Mad, maybe elongating the letter more than normal, and others and others and others. So these things we really need to study so that we are able to pronounce the ayahs of the Quran in a proper and satisfying way to us and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the scholar said, وَلَيْسَ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ تَرْكِهِ إِلَّا رِيَاضَةُ امْرِئٍ بِفَكَّيْهِ. What does this mean? It means that there is the only important thing is studying, but the real important thing is to practice and practice and practice using the jaw so that we can pronounce proper letters. So the only thing that parts you from a proper reading is practicing, learning the rules and practicing and practicing and practicing. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. The best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach us the Quran in the proper way and allow us to spread the word of the Quran as He subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. Thank you so much for your attention and your attendance, and inshallah I'll meet you in part 3 of lesson number 1. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.